What is up, my brothers from another mother? So today's video is on a topic request from one of my community members. He wanted me to summarize the key points guys need to understand when it comes to getting divorced. Like basically the preparation stage, which is always what most men need to hear. Either they don't want to hear or they don't go looking for the information because they're sleepwalking through life. They basically blindly walk through the notion that if I just do what I've always been told and follow what she says, it'll work out okay. And nothing could be farther from the truth. So I'm going to try to get through these 7 or 8 notes. I've got 8 now, actually. The light's fading. I apologize if the lighting's not so hot, but hopefully we can get through this before it gets too dark. The first thing that you need to know, guys, is that if you're going to get divorced and you're planning an exit, you want to spend a good amount of time with your kids. Again, all the stuff that I'm talking about is exclusive to fathers. So fathers getting divorced. This is not, you don't have any kids. This is most exclusive to fathers. If you want to be a part of your kid's life, if you want to make decisions about medical procedures, dentistry, schooling, religion, where they're going to live and all that sort of stuff, you need to share parenting responsibilities. And it's not just, you know, good for the kids, it's good for the father. I mean, it's good for both of you, and it's actually good for the mother too, even though she doesn't want to usually admit it, because the reason why she tends to go to be the primary caregiver, still about 8 out of 10 times, women are the custodial parent still. Whether it's because they convince the father that that would be a good idea, or they get it through family law. That's just what they get right now. So, and the primary reason for that is, of course, if, well, I'm going to use an Ontario example here in Canada, but if they have the kids, basically more than 60% of the time, they get to make all the decisions. All those things. If she meets a guy and she wants to fly off across the country and bring the kids with her and put them in a different school system that you don't agree with, or adopt a new religion that you don't agree with, add hyphens to the last name. I mean, pretty much anything they can do if they're the primary caregiver. And all you watch what happens is she gets to make all the choices. You tend to get alienated from your kids, and you watch her spend the money doing all those things. So it's incredibly important that if you want to be a part of your kid's life, that you share parenting responsibilities for a long time. Not something that you just do for the next couple of weeks because you want to get divorced, but it's something that is embedded within you, within your belief system, because it's great for the kids and it's great for the dad too. So that's very, very important. That's number one. And by the way, guys, if you get stuck on anything here as I'm going through it, or you want to get one-on-one coaching, I do that. I'll put a card up over here. I'm going to move my fat head a little bit. Clarity.fm/Richard Cooper, and I'll leave it pinned in the description below in case you want to book my time one-on-one for coaching, so I can walk you through the more specifics. But it is incredibly important, again, I'm going to stress this, that you spend about 50% of time with your kids before you get divorced for a long period of time, okay? That needs to be the baseline. You need to be involved with extracurricular activities, Boy Scouts. You need to volunteer to coach a soccer team, to be in Boy Scouts, take them to swimming. Help them with the homework, help her with the homework, whatever it is that you're doing. Go to the ballet classes and dance and put on the pink tutu and all that kind of shit. That needs to be the theme, if you will, in the amount of time that you spend with the children. It's incredibly important because if it does have to go to court and family law needs to get involved, they tend to side with what has been consistently happening in the children's life. Okay, so if you've been sharing custody, if you've been sharing parenting responsibilities, they're going to want to continue that. I know it's tougher for guys that might be assigned to an oil rig in the middle of the sea, or they fly helicopters for the Ministry of Natural Resources, for example, and are gone like, 15 days out of the month. I mean, it's really hard to share parenting responsibilities in those scenarios. We can talk about coping mechanisms if you want to book me one-on-one for a coaching call in scenarios of that where you might be able to improve it. But if you're hell-bent on divorce, half the time, no questions asked. Number 2, I'm going to deal with towards the end. It's on the topic of getting your money right, but I'm going to skip that one for now, and I'll tell you why at the end. The third one I've got down here is plan the divorce properly. Women initiate, I don't know, whatever it is, 7 or 8 out of 10 currently, depending on how you slice and dice it, of most divorces. So they tend to start the process more often than not, and they do it well researched. Don't think for a minute that this is something that happened out of the blue and she just says, I don't love you anymore, let's get divorced. She's talked to her girlfriend, she's probably already got a lawyer and retainer, had conversations with him, maybe the accountant, her family. It's not like oh, I'm just going to wake up one morning and say that I don't want to be with Bob anymore. That's not how it's planned. There's months, maybe even more than that, close to a year of planning that usually goes into the divorces for most women. Women are going to comments right now and say, you're lying. Yes, that's BS, Rich. It's not. It's absolutely true. Listen, I've coached hundreds of guys. I've had many, many conversations. These are experiences. I'm not making this up. This is not fairy tale. It's incredibly important that you plan it yourself as well. You plan the exit strategy. You're spending time with the kids. There's a bunch of other things that I'm going to get into in a moment, but do some planning. Don't just get up one morning and say, I hate this bitch, I want to get divorced, I'm going to tell her right now, and I'm going to move out. That is one of the worst things that you can do as a dude, is leave the house, right? And I'll get into that point in just a moment, because that's incredibly important with this one. The next point is stay in the matrimonial home. The reason for that is you're in a very, very bad bargaining position as a father, for the kids' benefit, to leave the home. I mean, you're going to be alienated as soon as you pack up your shit, or she says, maybe we should take a break and you should leave and go live at Bob's house, or, maybe I think I'm going to take the kids over to my mom's for a few weeks and, see what happens. It's not even uncommon for a midnight move to happen, or like a move to happen while you're at work one day and she just takes all the kids' shit and it's gone. You get home from work 8 hours later and boom, the moving truck is waiting down the street for you to make a left, sort of thing. Things like this can and do happen. I'm not saying it's the norm, but for you to leave the children, which goes me back to point one, you need to spend about half the time with them. You're not going to be able to take them to extracurriculars. You're not going to be able to make, little Bobby and Sally breakfast in the morning and cook up the French toast and serve it to them, get them ready for school and brush Sally's. You're not going to be able to do any of those things if you don't live in the matrimonial home. So I believe, and some lawyers will tell you different. I had one lawyer challenge me on this once, and I told him to fuck off. He came from somewhere on the West Coast in California, I think, and he encourages his male clients to move out. The point being here is, if you want to continue the access that you have to the kids, you need to continue living in the home until you have a signed separation agreement, which includes your parenting access rights. I don't like saying parenting access rights. It's almost like saying visitation rights. The last thing any father should have is visitation rights to his own children. That's the kind of shit they do to people when they go to jail, right? So, incredibly important to stay in the matrimonial home. The reason for that is you have bargaining position when it comes to the sale of the house, the division of the matrimonial assets, the access to the children, the decision making when it comes to raising the children, dealing with the kids and taking them to extracurriculars, and just generally being a part of their life. It's going to be hard. Most guys need to move into the spare bedroom, or they'll move into the basement, or they'll create like a new wing of the house or the attic. You basically do what you got to do to make sure that you're still able to spend time with your kids, and you're not going to be able to successfully do that if you don't live in the matrimonial home. Now, there's all kinds of coping mechanisms that you need to know, which is like a 3-hour video. So if you've got an acrimonious divorce, again, it's one of the things it's probably not a bad idea to book a coaching call with me on. Okay, I'm going to try to get through this in about half an hour. This video might take a little bit longer. The next thing is, well, actually, the story behind the story is real important. I'm going to leave that towards the end. Again, I'll explain when I get to that. The next one is I want to talk about your emotions when it comes to living in the matrimonial home, going through the divorce period. You're going to need to be able to control your emotions. You can't even fart on a woman when you're getting divorced and it's acrimonious. You just, like, you don't want to do anything that's going to spark any kind of complaints or finger pointing about you being angry, abusive. What else is used? You have a temper. There's any number of things that might, like sound bites that she might pull out of her toolkit. And these are the sorts of things that can get a guy in cuffs, hauled away from his own home, away from his children, in front of his children by the authorities. An example, a story one time of a guy that was coming home, pulls in his driveway. The separated wife decided, I need this guy out of the house for her own reasons, her own bargaining position, to move things along faster. And she basically ran into a wall and bruised and cut her face. And as he was walking in the house, she was on the phone with the cops saying, my husband hit me, I'm crying and I'm hurt, send somebody over, click sort of thing. So, like, these things can happen. Again, I'm not suggesting that it's a norm, but gentlemen, you can't behave like you're in a locker room or, you know, playing a football game with your buddies during, you know, the Super Bowl or whatever. You know, like you're gonna have to learn how to control your emotions. Learning how to control your emotions and your behavior is one of the most fundamental things that men need to get right when they're going through the divorce machine, through that grinder, because it is incredibly hard on you to go through that grinder and be successful at the other end. It's very, very difficult. So the other thing that you got to add to the plate of things that you need to do as a man with, you know, your burden of performance is to be able to control your emotions. One coping mechanism that you can use if she likes to provoke or name call or poke at you or make allegations. Everybody has one of these now, and these things all have a camera. All you have to do is record it, just hold it up like this and make a video. You're using it as a shield. If she's going to come at you to try to provoke you or any of those things, having video and audio evidence, and you're going to have to hold on it hard because women will try to knock it out of your hands. You know, if she's coming at you and you're using it as a shield, hold on to it tight. You're going to have to turn into Steven Spielberg sometimes. You're going to be making a couple movies. It's unfortunate, but that's just the predicament that men are in the Western world when it comes to family law, especially if there's a lot of acrimony. Again, you're staying in the house. She's going to want you out of the house. She's going to do things which will probably not be that comfortable. But you have to actually pay a lot more attention to the way that you behave and the things you say and your demeanor. So it's incredibly important. Again, you're a man. As far as society is concerned and, you know, the authorities are concerned, you're bigger, stronger, faster than women. And they're, you know, they need to be protected. So all that has to happen is the finger has to get pointed and then she sputters some words. And it doesn't matter whether you did anything or not. If the accusation's there, say goodbye. You're going to have no access to your house. You're probably going to have a restraining order against you and so on and so forth. So again, guys, these are worst case scenarios. Again, you know, there's always going to be somebody who goes, oh, you know, you're saying, listen. This doesn't happen all the time, but it happens way more than anybody cares to admit or even accept. It is incredibly common. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to move on to the next point. Before you make any announcement, now it's to your advantage, I believe anyway, that if the marriage isn't going well, that you control the divorce, that you're the one that is the one that announces the exit. You're going to be in a better bargaining position. She's going to have planned less. If the marriage isn't fixable, okay, let's just say that. If it's not fixable and you've decided it ain't worth living the rest of my life like this, and you want to give your kids a better life by separating the parents, and you think you're going to have success at it, again, you're going to need to plan it, but you're going to need to talk to a family lawyer before you do anything. You want to be the one being the leave-or. You know, there's that dynamic, the leave-or and the leavee in any kind of breakup, but it's incredibly specific when it comes to divorces. The person that's getting left, if it's the woman, she's not going to like it that much. And hell hath no fury, you know, like a woman scorned. So some of you on one hand might be saying, well, hang on, Rich, you just said you need to initiate it. But then on the other hand, you're saying she's going to be a nightmare. Well, yeah, that's the downside to it. If you're going to initiate it and she doesn't want things to end, all kinds of reasons, narcissism, psychopathy, instability, there's personality disorders, which, you know, women have that guys sometimes get drawn into. Sometimes, you know, early on in the relationship, it's because, you know, crazy in the head, crazy in the bedroom sort of thing. And that's what drags guys into it. But I want you guys to understand that I think one of the most fundamental things on my list here right now is making sure you talk to a family lawyer before you start anything. And the reason for that is find out how things work where you live. I'm talking broadly speaking right now at like 20,000 feet of altitude looking down at the landscape. Where you live is going to be different from where I live. Your experience might be slightly different from what mine was with the way law is. But the thing that you got to remember, again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not giving you legal advice here. I'm talking about experiences that I've had in other guys as well. You need to understand what local law states and what her rights are and what she can potentially do. So again, talk to a family lawyer before you announce anything so that you walk through this properly. And again, I coach on this stuff. So if there's something specific to your scenario that you want some hand holding on, that's why I do that. Next point. Accept it's going to be way harder than you think. Way harder. One thing that almost every single guy that's been through a divorce is going to tell you that was not easy. You know, the reason why divorce is really expensive, or the most expensive things that you can do, is because it's worth it. You know, there's a joke around that. We've heard that one before. But you have to understand that this is going to be the most stressful time in your life. You're going to knock months and potentially years off your entire lifespan going through an acrimonious divorce. A divorce should be straightforward and simple. Unfortunately, family law doesn't facilitate that. The Western world has family law written such that it doesn't encourage women to behave well during the divorce. In fact, it encourages them to optimize their hypergamy, to try to get the best deal that they possibly can, which feeds into their solipsism. So you're just going to be entering it from that position. You're at a disadvantage. One of the things my lawyer told me when I was getting divorced is, he goes, you don't want to do certain things, and he named them, and he's like, because you have the penis and you're not going to do well in those environments, right? Family law, like the courtroom is not friendly towards men, you know, for example, throughout most of the Western world. So you just have to accept that this is going to be a lot harder than what you think it is, which kind of ties into something small that I should mention, which isn't that small, but it's fairly significant. Self-care is very important. You need to start making you your own mental point of origin. You need to be the priority in your life, okay? So when you don't have parenting responsibilities that are either extracurriculars, schooling, helping, you know, gym with homework, playing catch outside, when you're not on parenting responsibilities, you need to be in your own mental point of origin, okay? When your ex-wife starts hammering you with things like this, that, and the other thing, the simple answer is, look, I don't work for you anymore. Okay, so I want you to start to understand that even though it is going to be harder than you accept, making yourself your own mental point of origin, making a priority in self-care, go to the gym, pick up heavy shit, put it down, eat good quality food, you know, put the right things in your face, because it is going to drain your batteries. Like I said, it'll knock months, maybe even years off your entire life. But at the end of the day, if it's not a good marriage, you married a narcissist, somebody that's overly controlling, a complete nightmare, you're probably going to save more than what you're going to lose. So let's just put it that way. Let's go to the next point. Right. The woman you marry isn't the woman that you divorce. Clinical psychologist friend of mine said this in a conversation once, and he deals more with, you know, couples and anxiety issues and things like that. And he said, you know, the woman you divorce is never the same woman that you marry. And there's something to be said about that. I'm going to say it again. The woman you divorce is never going to be the same woman that you marry. You could have been sitting there at your wedding reception after the ceremony, and you got the slides up and the band's playing and everybody's out there and you're bawling your eyes out and you're so in love with her and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, while that conditioning kind of like felt good at the time, I'll tell you from my own and the experience of the men that I've talked to, there's been a lot of stories that I've heard that, I mean, I could write a novel on them, you know, at the end of the day. But you just have to understand that the woman that you're going to divorce is not the same person that you married. She's not going to be friendly. There's always things that are behind the initiatives and the statements that she make to you. I'll share one very quick story to kind of frame this point before I move on. I had a coaching call with a guy a couple weeks ago that had a car accident and was on disability, living at home. And basically for the last 7 months, he's been spending about 85% of the time with the kids, fixing the breakfast, taking them to school, doing the extracurriculars. She was going to work. He's getting a disability check in the mail because he can't work, but he's still able to father them. And his question, the reason why he booked me was to talk about strategies until the house sells and he can move out, at which point he would get to see the kids every other weekend on a Wednesday night for dinner, which is basically the screw over daddy deal. And what she told him was basically, don't worry, you know, we'll work things out, sort of thing. But right now she's using the guy basically as a nanny. You know, it's like she picked up the phone and ordered up a Filipino nanny that came and lived in her house and is now, you know, taking care of the kids, but it's the father. And then when he leaves, he's going to end up throwing money at her and never seeing the children, is the deal that she's trying to present. So guys don't have the, you know, the same like frame that a woman has that understands the divorce process, that understands divorce law. If you're sleepwalking through the divorce process, you're not going to have a very good experience. You're going to be told things that you're going to accept because you think it's a good idea to accept it. But at the end of the day, when you get out the other side, the results you're going to get are be like, whoa, what the hell happened? Why don't I get to see my kids anymore? How come I'm spending $4,500 a month now when I was only spending like $1,000 a month to help, you know, buy diapers and food and things like that, you know, for these children. So understand again, the woman that you divorce is not the same woman that you... Okay, so the two last points that I want to talk about which are only going to be available to my private community members, are going to be there for a reason. They're a little less, you know, PG, if you will. And it's probably going to ruffle some feathers. So I think it's better that we leave these 2 points. And they are, get your money right. It's incredibly important to deal with the economics of divorce. And then the other part is the story behind the story, which I've kind of talked a little bit about during this video. But I'm going to cut it short here for the public version. If you want access to the full version, it's on my community tab. It's entrepreneursandcars.com/community. And I've got a whole bunch of premium videos there that deal with a lot of useful topics that would help guys unlock new levels of achievement in life, whether it's with self-care, with dating, dealing with stuff like this, it's there. And I also have a private men's community on Facebook, which, you know, you guys can exchange dialogue and ask questions and give back and forth and stuff. Plus, we also do live Q&As monthly with just me specifically. So I'm going to wrap it up on that point. Leave a comment below if you have some value to add to this. Of course, like the video, maybe show it to somebody that might need to see it. And of course, consider joining my men's community, link pinned in the description below, entrepreneursandcars.com/community, or you can book me for one-on-one coaching on the phone if you want to kind of dive down a different kind of strategy or maybe talk about where you're at, clarity.fm/Richard Cooper. Peace.